a Project B.A.I.T news analysis to Rambo Report for my people. As you know, I've said in the past, and I hope you're a regular listener, is that I don't go to too many lectures anymore. Well, really not for the past 20 years or so, except when a friend is participating or giving them, or if they're on a bus route. Okay. Because I found that most of the folk don't know what they're talking about. All right. Or if they say one or two things right, in the main, they're coming from a point of view which is just inimical to our community. But I do go a lot to the library and on the internet. So I was on the internet recently, and there was this segment broadcast by Dr. Claude Anderson. Okay, he's a prolific writer about economics, about our community, and is a sound writer and thinker. Okay, and he gave this economic analysis, not overly long, but long enough, and it was followed by a lot of comments because on the internet you can have feedback, and and typically happens. The responses, and in the main they were from black males, was saying how great it was. It was incorrect. It was incorrect. His analysis was straight out incorrect. And that's sad because he gives a lot of presentations. He speaks a lot on the internet, and I guess gives lectures and has written books. And some of his books are pretty good. This analysis was totally, well, not totally, but significantly incorrect. What did he say that was so wrong? He said in terms of making changes or improvements, we have to deal with this system in this nation that is hierarchically defined. He said at the bottom was the base, the foundation, the first floor, was economics, the financial system. Then he said above that was the political system. Then he said the criminal justice system, the police. Then he said the media. He only went 4 stories. That's wrong. Straight out wrong. We have to deal with all of those. That's right. But they're not hierarchical. They're circular, linear. Circular, the extended line going around. But more even complex than that, they're intertwined. They all exist at the same time. So to be effective, singularly effective, and to be at least intellectually correct, we need to say, if we're going to do something about improving our condition in this society, and for that matter, in any modern mass industrial society, you have to deal with several areas at the same time. All of the ones he mentioned and others in addition. And you cannot effectively improve our condition if you only deal in a hierarchical modality, that is business and finances, politics, police force or police agencies and the media. If we deal with them hierarchically instead of interwoven, on an interwoven basis, because they all weave together. Now, there are certain instances where if you deal with economics alone, you very clearly see that that is not where the situation that led to your disaster is found. I'll give you a good example, as clear as a bell. In Zimbabwe, the white farmers and the white invaders took control of Zimbabwe from the Africans. So that it grew to the point where the revolution happened and the population of Zimbabwe at that time was roughly about 7 million. And of that 7 million, only 100,000 were white. But the whites controlled the economy. Just totally, they owned the land. All right? So the revolution came, the politics, the power structure changed. And the whites who had power, as well as, political power as well as economic power, that is, those 100,000 whites ran the government for all the 7 million. When the power structure changed, the economic structure changed. And so as a consequence, the whites still controlled up until the political power hierarchy changed. So that now those who control the political power have thrown out, or in the process of throwing out, all the whites who control the economic power. So in that sense, Anderson's hierarchy that's one example, incorrect. Well, the same thing is true in this society or in other societies. They are interwoven. And if you lose one, you are subject to lose the other, okay? And that to deal effectively, you have to deal with all of them simultaneously at one level. And that is what the white Zimbabweans were unable to continue to do when the black Zimbabweans took the political power away from them. And that is something we need to learn. And I think Dr. Claude Anderson needs to learn as well. This has been another Project B.A.I.T. News Analysis, the Rambo Report for my people.
The Saturday Irregulars, an urban think tank, meets weekly from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. across the street from Belle Isle at the northeast intersection of East Jefferson and East Grand Boulevard. No leaders, no elections, no officers, no dues, no in-groups. Thinkers and students are welcome. A choice, not an option.
Hi, I'm Divine with the For My People Generation X and Millennial Report. On today's segment, I want to talk with you about the End Racism comedy show that I had the opportunity to attend. There were 4 comedians, all of Black descent, that came together to do stand-up on the subject matters of reparation, freedom, and living Black in America. The 4 comedians were Heather Kyle, Fago Red, KJ Robinson, and the last minute added was Bobo Lamb, who opened up for individuals such as Dick Gregory. He's been on B.A.I.T, Comic View, traveled all around the world. And so with this End Racism comedy show, the goal was to bring different races together to really hear and give a voice to racism. With that, a conversation came up. In this conversation, I have heard time in and again, and it was, racism doesn't exist. Racism doesn't exist. Since I've been hearing this conversation, I've wondered, what does that really mean? What does that really look like? So, as you know, I went and did some research. So, hypothetically speaking, I want you to take this journey with me so that you can visually understand why some view racism does not exist, while others are working to end racism. During the late 1800s, there was a time where the word racism was not used in the Black vocabulary. And the experiences that Black people went through dealt from a vein of hate. And in a previous show, I talked about hate and how it was projected onto us based off our skin color, our hair, our economic and political power. So as we move forward and we become educated, because you know Blacks were not allowed to read and write up until 1854, when the first Black school emerged. And here we're being educated from a Black perspective or a handed down, and I say very small handed down perspective. But then you come into about 1954 when segregation ends and we are now allowed to integrate into the white educational system, the white American educational system. So we're given a new type of language. But the term racism still is not noted in the dictionary that we are now learning the language from, which is the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So as I was doing my digging, I reached out to Merriam-Webster and I actually got a hold of the editorial department so that I could find out the history of the word racism. Racism was not added to the dictionary until 1961. And so what I want us to understand is that racism, affirmative action, colorism, multiracialism, these are all terms that were created to develop a whole nother system of oppression. So as we work to fight racism, it's important to understand the laws that were incorporated from the 1800s up into now. So when I say the laws, Jim Crow. The Jim Crow laws govern the way that blacks were to interact with whites in America. How you look at a white person in their eye, how you have to step off the street and allow them to pass you, how you cannot address the person and you are called boy or girl. And then you also want to go into the context of blacks were not viewed as human. We were viewed as 3/5 of a human being as well as property. So that takes me into the whole human rights aspect. There's an organization called Blackout that is working to focus it more on the human rights aspect. And I highly encourage you to Google human rights laws. So that way you can actually see the laws that all humans are obliged to have, to be respected, and to be put into practice. So with the Blackout Initiative, the goal is for us to understand that we have the right to free education. We have the right to govern ourselves. We have the right to do at least 25 laws. So the millennials and Generation X. As we continue to hear the term racism, I want us to understand, one, racism was a word that was incorporated into our language in 1961. And this particular term is able to mask a whole layer of hatred, anger, resentment, envy, and jealousy, as well as murder, deceit, and the lack of love. So now it's our time to stop hating, envying, and so on and so forth. And so when I say that, I'm saying it to white and black, because it's all of us that are making this continue to go on and on and on. I am Divine with the Generation X Millennial For My People Report. Hi, I am Divine with the For My People, Millennial, and Generation X report. I would like to take this time to thank you, the viewers, who are continuing to watch our show and actually sending in emails. I especially want to thank the young lady who is wanting to make sure that her teenage niece is learning about our history, Black history. I know in this day and time, teenagers or tweeners are limited in regards to how they gain knowledge about our history. We have social media segments and platforms that are showing memes as well as video shorts to teach us more about our history. YouTube is a great example. We have our YouTube channel, which is For My People by Project B.A.I.T, that has at least 7 years of shows that you can actually watch and learn more about our history as Black people and part of the African diaspora. And you're also able to find real factual informational lectures from individuals such as Dr. Ben and others, and Dr. Amos, just to name a few. So what I want us to think about millennials and the Generation X segment is, how are we getting our story out? How is our story being told? Because now we have the opportunity to tell our own stories. No longer do we have to sit and watch the shadowed slavery movies that come out every Black History Month and showing the one side of who we are as a people. We now have the opportunity to show that we were indigenous here in North America. We have the opportunity to show that there is not only the Kemet dynasty, but there is also the Mali, there's also the Bakongo, there is also the Zulu nation. So we have an opportunity to tell our stories from an economical standpoint in regards to we have Black Wall Street, but you also have entities that were created that actually generated money and rebuilt and developed and even supported our communities. So when we're reaching out to our tweeners and teenagers, it's important that, one, we present true Black facts. And these Black facts have something to back them up, whether it is a book, whether it is a film, whether it is a short video, whether it is a podcast, whether it is hip hop, rapid, flowing, or fashion, swag. Here you can see I have For My People custom apparel. This is a way for me to continue on the legacy and teach tweens about this logo that has been seen by millions of people for over 50 years. Also, I have on my arm a picture of one of the founders, David Rambo. So here I'm able to teach right on the spot to tell you that he was a professor, that he was an activist, that he is, and I say was, past, but he's still here. And you get a chance to see him along with me. In addition, I want us to think about how we celebrate. We have calendars that come up on our mobile devices, and they automatically generate regular holidays, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. But now I want to challenge us to create our own calendar to where we're not only celebrating Dr. King, but we are celebrating Ron Scott's birthday. We are celebrating Coleman Young's birthday. We are celebrating the liberation of us as a people when we actually are owning our own schools, because there was a date that was established when we set out to educate ourselves. So I want us to start marking and practicing the celebration of Malcolm X, the celebration of Marcus Garvey, the celebration of Madam C.J. Walker, the celebration of all the individuals that we stand on that have created a collectiveness of empowerment, education, economics, emancipation, from a liberation, mental and spiritual, physical perspective. We have to continue to bring the tweeners and the teenagers on, not just in the way to where we entertain them from a drop it like it's hot or a rump shaker perspective, but in the context of understand who you are is from a power source that originates from the first human being. Your mind, your DNA has the genetic markup and melanin that makes you of a magnificent dimension. So with all that being said, Generation X and the millennials, I encourage you to drop 1 or 2 or 3 Black facts on your Facebook page. Make sure you befriend some tweeners or some teenagers, 14 to 16. I also encourage you to start looking forward to our For My People Black History Cultural Awareness Summer Camp that's going to be coming in August. So I want you to stay tuned for that, because we're going to make sure that teenagers are able to learn about the culture of who we are, the economics of who we are, the politics of who we are, and even more. And it's all going to be done through using technology. So with that, I am Divine with the For My People, Generation X, and Millennial Report.
The Saturday Irregulars, an urban think tank, meets weekly from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. across the street from Belle Isle at the northeast intersection of East Jefferson and East Grand Boulevard. No leaders, no elections, no officers, no dues, no in-groups. Thinkers and students are welcome. A choice, not an option.
Little Rock Baptist Church. Come and receive your blessings at the historic Little Rock Baptist Church, 9000 Woodward Avenue, 313-872-2900. Worship services are 10 a.m. and Sunday school 8:45 a.m. Enjoy an experience that will warm your heart and feed your spiritual soul. Little Rock Baptist Church.